Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first The State of the Social session, where we're going to meet hopefully on a monthly basis. We're not sure the cadence of it yet, but whenever we feel inspired to talk about a topic in the industry of social media, marketing, the platforms themselves, any updates, we're going to come on here and talk about it from our experience as being business owners and being in the world every single day. So let's start with our introduction.
Shall we jump in? Looks like we have some people joining us, which is great. And we'll also share the replay of this with everybody afterwards too. If at any point you can't hear us, just give us a shout in the chat box. If you have questions, give us a shout in the chat box. This is, as you can probably tell, we're pretty informal. So just wanted to be a discussion with everyone today. So feel free to chime in at any time. Introducing ourselves. So hi, my name is Paige. If you don't know me, Paige Knapp. I am the CEO of Kylie Social. You?
I am Rhea Swope. I'm the COO of Kylie Social.
And we are also collectively in charge of the Hive Connective. So just like a 30-second breakdown on what we do. Kylie Social is a social media management agency. So we serve clients through our Kylie Social arm. We have clients in all kinds of industries, many of whom we do short video strategies for within all of their social channels. So anything we do related to clients runs through Kylie Social. And then when we look to the Hive Connective, this is really an educational space that we're building and have built for social media managers, folks who maybe occupy a role where social is a part of that job that they're doing, whether that's for themselves as business owners or perhaps in-house, doing marketing managing jobs and things like that. And really our goal with the Hive is to cultivate resources and community among the individuals who work in the world of social media, us included. So part of that work is these educational sessions. We're really excited to be launching the State of Social today. So we have 30 minutes. I know we actually have 45 minutes, but 30 minutes of learning and about 15 minutes for questions. That's how we're going to rock.
Yeah. Yep. So I just want to acknowledge everybody that's tuning in today for being here. We're very excited to start hosting these sessions, on the regular and just dive into the space of education and thought leading in this industry. So thank you for showing up. We couldn't do this without people to watch it and be interested in it. And we're here just because we love this, simply because we talk about this all the time on our own time, and it's just wasted space if we're just talking to each other. So we want to talk with other creatives who also find these topics interesting. So thank you for being here. We're excited to be here. Like Paige said, the structure of this we'll kind of talk at you for 30 minutes and share with you our learnings from what we're working with every day. And then the last 15 minutes, we will address the comments. So at any point throughout the next 30 minutes, you can ask your questions in the comments, in the chat, but we will address them at the end. So don't think you're being ignored. We'll get to there. Or you can save your questions till the end. So
shall we?
Let's jump right in. We're going to start with some foundationals. Paige,
yeah,
can you take us away?
We're gathered here today to discuss this concept of short form video on social media. So just to lay some foundations here, let's all get on the same page. When we talk about short form videos, what do we really mean here? What we're talking about when we talk about short form video is what you're probably seeing now on spaces like Instagram Reels and of course on channels like TikTok. So video is not new to social media at large. Short form video in this way and how we'll be talking about it today is newer. And it's certainly a trend that the industry has embraced. We've seen a lot of change on platforms to accommodate short form video. So if we talk about short form video in terms of how it compares to its predecessor of just sort of like classic video on social, there are really some sort of fundamental differences that set it apart from other content and fundamentally change how that content is created. So some of those things, sort of critical elements, are first and foremost, it's vertical video. As you've probably seen if you've explored for your own personal channels or brand channels, TikTok, Instagram Reels, we're looking at the vertical format, same as Instagram Stories might be. This is a change to what we used to see, which was video showing up as the sort of the same 1080 by 1080 square format. Yeah. More importantly, though, that size is the sort of function of the content. How short form video is built is based on a few key fundamental elements, including, and most notably, a sound. So this is a different user behavior than we've seen on other platforms and sort of content building block. The sounds are really what power sort of some of the trends that you're seeing in short form video, but it also powers discoverability. So when we talk about sounds on platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels, it's the sort of same functionality that the original sort of hashtag might have served. It's highly searchable. It pulls your content into a stream of content, most likely in the similar vein, especially if it's around a particular content trend. The sounds also become really a living and breathing part of the content. It's not just a backtrack of music. Oftentimes the content is built around in some way the sounds that you're hearing, or can be built around. We'll talk a little bit about our take on whether or not you need to be capitalizing on trends if you're going to jump into the short form game. Spoiler alert here, you do not. It is certainly one way to approach this work, but it's not the only way. So the sounds is a really key element, just to keep in mind, super searchable, really changes the way the content's created. Then on top of that, you're going to see sort of like the classic filters and effects. If you're a regular on TikTok, you're probably getting used to seeing things like the green screen filter, which is sort of functional for the content. Other ones are sort of trend related, but kind of funny different filters that you lay on top. Just to fly through the foundationals here, some other important things. The caption length on short form video on both TikTok and Instagram Reels is much shorter than we're allowed on other platforms. And this really comes down to, we think, the platform's driving you to tell your story and share your information in the video itself. The caption then just becomes a short supporting kind of mechanism on top of the content in the video.
I almost find too that the captions, this is more so for TikTok, but I see it bleeding into the Reel space, that the captions are more of an afterthought to the video. So whereas before the caption was like the lead up to the video, or it explained what you were seeing content wise, now the captions are kind of leaning towards like, you know, you watch the full video and then what is that thought you're thinking at the end of it? That's usually what the caption tends to be. So it's short and it's not even as informative anymore. It's really just,
it really supplements the video. And in fact, you'll see some content that, you know, performs without a caption at all. So it speaks to the testament of the power within the content itself. You can include hashtags on short form video, especially if you're sharing it to platforms like Instagram Reels and TikTok. And then most importantly, sort of, so when we talk about length in terms of what's allowed on spaces like TikTok and Instagram Reels, you can record up to, especially on TikTok, you can do up to 3 minutes. What we find and what we suggest that a minute or less is really the most powerful form of content in the short form video space.
I think I was just telling Paige this yesterday, you know, before in the marketing world, it was about 3 seconds. I think you had to pull somebody that's scrolling's attention, and a new study that came out, and I'll post this if I can find it. I'll post it in the description of this video. But a new study came out that the attention span is now like less than a second, like much less than a second. And that's thanks to TikTok and things like that. But whereas before you had 3 seconds to pull them in, now you have less than 1. So all that information and like the hook really needs to be there in the beginning.
So, you know, we've said a lot about TikTok and Instagram Reels already in this discussion, but we want to make something super clear. Can short form video be leveraged on other channels like LinkedIn, Facebook, other Twitter, even more traditional sort of social media channels that you might, especially if you're managing a brand or a company's social channels, you probably already have those in place? The answer is absolutely yes. But the reason that we really want to talk about short form video as it's being driven by spaces like TikTok and Instagram Reels is because the industry is changing as those platforms and those types of that short form video as a type of content takes the lead. And we have to pay attention when the industry makes changes to accommodate a new format of content, right? We know that's true because there was a time where stories didn't exist. And so making ephemeral content, 24 hours or less, was not a part of a social media manager's job, but now we know that it is. So this is really, we think, the beginning, if not the sort of, we're in the trenches now in the wave of short video. So can it be used on other platforms? Absolutely, yes. But you'll hear us talk a lot about those two spaces today because they're driving the way. To that end, so why do we find that it's absolutely critical to use short form video in a social media strategy today? The answer is, number one, the same thing we just discussed, which is that platforms are changing around this format. If that's true, then we need to keep up with that, right? So we have to evolve our strategies to accommodate the new kinds of content that the platforms are encouraging us use. But the other reason is because short form video is actually really powerful in that it's super repurposable, right? Like, for example, this live, don't be surprised if you hear a soundbite from it on our own social channels, because as you create content, especially in the video format, it can be sliced, diced, and shared across different channels. And more importantly than that, short form video can be easily kind of turned around based on what content you're already creating. If you are a brand, an organization, you work for a brand and organization, you're probably already creating great, resourceful, informative content in some of the more traditional formats.
Yeah.
You might be writing a blog post every week, a newsletter. Maybe you are a speaker. You know, like this, you give sessions, or
maybe you're having coaching sessions, or like one-on-one, like your service quite literally is creating information when you're talking to clients, but you're not capturing that. You know, that's also useful information.
So it's really important, really sort of talk about video, because it's playing the game, right? It's soothing the algorithms on social media. You're going to find that your content goes a lot further when you sort of leverage the tools that these platforms are prioritizing themselves. So when you use video, you'll probably see an increased reach on that content versus a traditional sort of photo or something that you're sharing on your social feeds, but also because it can be done easily. And we know that that might not be a shared understanding, because video, especially a new format in short form video, can feel very intimidating and very overwhelming. But we want to jump into today how you can actually introduce that into your strategy right now, and do it successfully, where we've even got tips on how to actually create the content. So,
and I want to preface too, you know, as we continue to dive into this, that when we say the future of social media is video, that can seem really scary. To us, it's like exciting and encouraging, and we want you to feel that way too about it. But we also understand that it can feel overwhelming if you haven't even touched the video space at all. So we're not saying you have to like completely erase all static photos on your strategy. That's absolutely not what you need to do. And it's something you can slowly start to implement one video at a time. And it's something a new skill that you attain. So just wanted to put that disclaimer out there.
So let's start by addressing two things. Number one, I think a lot of folks' first interaction with short form video content is via their own personal consumption, right? So maybe you, like many people, created a TikTok account at the beginning of the pandemic to pass the time, to entertain yourself. I know certainly that was our origin stories on the platform. And if you've done that, then what you've probably seen from the user side is a lot of sort of trend-driven content, right? So I think we can start at like the super top level. People think in TikTok, especially, is just like dances. Those, A, not true, but B, those are really part of what we consider in that trend bucket. Formats that become popular because users start or create them and then others pick up on it. Those trends, they're fun and they're easy, and they're a great place to start because they give you a clear set of parameters, right? Like if you want to participate in a trend, for example, at the very beginning of the pandemic, it was the passing the toilet paper from one person to another and slicing all the videos together so that it looked like you were all handing it off to one another. It's clear how to participate in that, right? You see someone else do it, you can replicate that format. Trends also with sounds, where someone might be lip syncing along and then making it relevant to their industry. These are excellent ways to start, but we want to be crystal clear. Trends are not the only way to be involved in short form video. If you find that that's an accessible place to start, then great, start there. But if you do not, and you need to sort of come up with content ideas on your own, where do you begin? We already touched on this a little bit, but the number one rule of thumb here is start with what you're already creating. So for example, if you are issuing a blog post once a week, add into your sort of SOP or your creative process to, once that blog is complete, synthesize that down into maybe 3 valuable takeaways that you can share from that piece of content. Prop up your phone, prop up a camera, turn it on, and maybe record yourself or record an expert talking about those things. We'll get to this later, but if you have folks who do not want to be on camera, there are also options for creating short form video that do not involve a person being on screen. So start where you already are. Start with what you're creating. Think about how you can integrate creating a short form video element on the back end of creating the content that you're already sharing. You can, definitely use this as a process for elevating sort of the same kind of content. But if you also sort of see an opportunity where you're like, this, we wanted to do this Q&A style format, but it never made sense to do in a blog post or something. Consider short form video as a new avenue to explore pieces of content that maybe felt right, but didn't have a space to live. Short form video can be a really powerful place to put that.
So here's a perfect example of a section that I think every business has on their website that can be an easy series of videos to do, is your FAQ page. Quite literally, every single FAQ that you have listed on a website could be one video. It's just, film yourself, or if you don't want yourself filmed, there's other ways, like she said, put the frequently asked question at the top, and then the video is you answering it. Right there is a 45 to 30 second video that is like timeless information.
Yeah, so if you were to get started with this process today, that would be one excellent way to begin, right? Open up that FAQ page. Each one of those questions becomes a piece of content that you can film.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Another thing about sort of getting started now, like if you want to start this immediately and don't have the bandwidth or ability to sort of clear getting a new channel online, like a TikTok, or if you are on Instagram, videos not really incorporated, you don't want to start your Instagram reels, totally fine. You can shoot this content on your own and share it on the platforms where it already exists. It's one way to get started immediately. The other thing we'll say is, so all that said, you don't have to start a new channel now, but it's a great time to do it if you're willing and if you're able to cement your presence on spaces, especially like TikTok, because it's one of the fastest growing platforms. It's great to have you. It would be great to reserve your sort of space now, even if you don't intend to create the content for that channel just yet. But also because what we're seeing in the social space is that for the first time in quite a long time, quick and sort of meaningful growth is possible on spaces like TikTok. The reason for that is their algorithm behaves a little bit differently than other spaces do. It's part of what differentiates them in the space. Instagram Reels' algorithm is rapidly keeping up with TikTok, so you can kind of apply the same principles there. One of the key elements of this is that for one of the first times sort of in my recent memory, the timing of your content is less relevant than ever. So you can post something now, not be worried about, is it the right time of day or is it the right time of month or year? And your content can actually see a real lift in exposure, reach, impressions, certainly as you first share it, but also, it could be days or weeks after you originally shared that content that you see a major elevation of it.
Yeah.
That is not true, right, of some of the more traditional formats of content. You're not really going to see that come to fruition on, for example, a static Instagram post or perhaps a LinkedIn post sharing an article. Those are going to operate more in the traditional algorithmic sort of way. Discoverability, reach, exploration, the algorithm is working in the background to serve you up to relevant audiences when you first share and way down the line as well, which is a really cool tool and is one of the ways we've seen our clients be able to grow successfully, even if the sort of initial post.
And so at that point, there's kind of this natural desire, like on Instagram or something, where you'll post and then it won't perform like you wanted it to. And so there's this feeling for like personal brands that they want to take that content down then. Which you should never do, but it's understandable to want to do that. Whereas on TikTok, we would promote never to do that. Like keep the content up, whatever you post. If you liked it at one point, you'll just keep it there. Because to Paige's point, it could be 4 months down the line, another video of yours goes viral and that ends up pushing people to that video you posted 4 months ago that originally got no views. So never delete your content.
So some other ways to sort of get started today by incorporating this into your existing strategy. Consider your niche, right? And consider how your niche can come to life in video content. One thing I'm hearing in the sort of space of social media managers is a really firm push to niche down quickly and sort of as far as possible, right? So to share super, super niche content. What we would say about this is that's true. It can be really, helpful, especially as you're thinking about content creation, to identify your niche and stay sort of within it as much as you can. But one caveat to that we would share is consistency is always going to be better than limiting yourself because you're afraid that the content you're creating is not, squarely within your niche. Especially on these platforms, the more that you're sharing and experimenting, twofold, right? You're going to learn faster how to leverage these channels and sort of how your content can come to life in your unique brand voice on these spaces, the more that you do it. And also, consistency pays off. That's always true of social media. So, don't be afraid to post, even if you're not quite sure if it makes sense. You will learn more than you will regret by sharing that content. And you'd be surprised sort of by what's successful. I think one of the things that we found to be really interesting with one of our client case studies was, I don't think we ever considered that like interactive content, like asking the audience to weigh in on one of our clients would be successful. But she's an interior designer, and we recently started a new series on her channel that sort of incorporates the viewer and asks them to participate in sort of a mini design challenge. And that has really gone over well, which we would not have known if we hadn't experimented with that format of content, even though we didn't think, because her space or her niche really is expert in interior design. So it's sort of backwards to think like, let's let the audience be the experts.
Yeah.
But by doing it, we saw some real success. So a great example of not limiting yourself.
And to her point as well, TikTok is a really forgiving space in the way of her commenters kind of told us to kind of like led us to the direction of going there to like the design challenge, because eventually, you listen to the comments, they say, we want more of this, we want more of this. Whereas I feel like Instagram is more of a space where you get comments like, love this. It's more like validation of your content. Mm-hmm. Whereas TikTok, I feel like the users are like, no, we'll tell you what we want. So if you do get yourself out there and just post stuff, you'll start to hear what the people want to see.
Yeah. And to that end, if you can start to develop sort of serialized content, this is a great counter to the very one-off approach of only participating in trends, right? So trends are a great way to gain some quick sort of exposure. Oftentimes, if you jump on a trend at the right time, you'll see some of the benefit of that, increased views, potentially grow your following on, especially if you're on a new platform like TikTok. But what will keep people around, right? So let's say you wind up on someone's page because of a trend video that you've made. When they go to your profile, you want it to be pretty crystal clear kind of what value you deliver, right? That's true of any social media platform. So the series ideas are where you're going to find that you can actually bring long-term value. And you may not see those kind of videos go quote unquote viral right away, but they're what will cement your thought leadership, and they're what will keep your train going, right? Like your content train. When there isn't a trend to jump on. So we highly encourage thinking about buckets of series ideas that you can do. Again, base those on the content you're already creating, but also get creative. Is there some sort of new, a series once a week you can talk about a certain topic or take questions or
can you do a series where you're busting myths about your industry?
Yeah. There's all kinds of sort of different things you can do. We highly recommend tools, like using tools that you might use for your content creation. Similarly, you can use them for short video. So tools like Answer the Public to find out kind of what the burning questions are in your specific industry or niche, and then create content that answers those questions. They can be really helpful for building your serialized content in short form video too. And remember, these videos should be about a minute or less, right? So if you have, 10 answers, that can be 10 very quick videos that you can shoot, and suddenly, you have a series. One of the beauties of short form video is that it is not overproduced. The more organic it feels, the better. Yes, you can have lighting and tripods and things like that. You do not need those tools. In fact, the more organic it feels, often the better it performs with audiences, because you're talking to human beings on the other side. So these are some really, tactical ways that you can get started right now with short form video in your strategy. And speaking of burning cues, one of the ones that we get a lot and that we wanted to make sure we talked about today is the idea of, what if I don't want to be on camera, first of all, or what if I don't have the right person figured out? Maybe you work in-house somewhere or for a company and you don't know who that person should be, right? To that end, we will, spoiler alert, we're going to share a little bit about our secret sauce that we found is successful, and it does have something to do with a person being on screen. So ideally, right, a person will be in front of the camera, but if that is the prohibitor to getting started right now, that you don't want to do it, or you don't know someone who's comfortable doing it, don't let that drive you to walk away from integrating short form video. There's a couple different ways that you can do, still be successful without somebody on camera. Here's a couple ways. First, you can always film content and then lay a voiceover over top, right? So you can record yourself speaking the topic over top of the video. This is true anytime it's a best practice, but if you're going to do that approach, especially be sure to have captions, which are easily auto-enabled on platforms like Instagram, Reels, and TikTok. Be sure that your captions are available so that it's easy to consume even if the sound is off. People might not even realize there's someone talking if they don't have their sound on, if there are not captions. But yeah, so you can lay a voiceover. You can, if you're comfortable being on screen but you don't want to talk, you can always do the method, I'm sure you've seen it, of sort of pointing at the screen, text appears, and you can make your point that way. That is absolutely viable. We still see that format is successful across channels. You, you
can personify like a mascot,
yes.
or even like, I've seen people have a brand, like a business at home, and they use their cat. They just use videos of their cat and then they voice over like as if the cat's running the business. But look at Duolingo, how they've used just their mascot, in their offices. Somebody's wearing a costume and that's all you see is the main character of Duo.
Yep. So there are, get creative. If the person being on screen is your prohibitor, do not let that stop you. It's not required. It's not necessary. Hopefully you can move towards that model, because we do find it is really successful, especially to have a person or a personality that kind of hosts these types of pieces of content, but you can do it without. So, we have 101 probably creative ways we've come up with to do that. Because we've needed to. Every client we work with is super comfortable jumping on camera. So if you have questions about that specifically, definitely let us know. But so, we could go on and on about how to start with the video strategy, but hopefully there were some tactics in there that you can pick up on. That said, how then do you actually create the content? That can be a challenge too, because video editing is not everybody's forte. So we've got some tips for you.
So in terms of video editing with the short form video, my biggest piece of advice, if you aren't already familiar, like at least a little familiar with editing within like TikTok or Reels, is just try it, like on your personal page, or even create a burner account where it's totally anonymous, no profile picture, no username, and you're just like creating content that doesn't actually go public and you post it to only me. But just play around, because if you can get comfortable editing within TikTok, to be quite honest with you, we run a very successful agency and TikTok is my main editing platform. Yep. Like, do I have Premiere Pro from Adobe? Yes. Do I use it? No. Like, TikTok is my main editing platform. So I would mainly suggest just playing around in there, because the more that you play, the easier it is to understand. Of course, there's other YouTube videos out there that'll like show you tutorials if you are that kind of learner. But I'm a tactical learner. Like, I just got to get my hands dirty and play with it. So if you don't already have the app downloaded, you haven't already tried to edit a video or two on there, just give it a try. But some more tactical tips for editing short form. Like we said earlier, the attention span is short for users. So you only have a few, like less than a second to capture their attention to watch the rest of your video within the first second of them seeing your video. So, see the intro. You don't need to introduce yourself every time. They can find that information out by finding your profile and looking at your bio. Just get to the heart of the matter. You want to have right away text at the top of the screen that says like 2 words about what the topic of your video is. Like Paige said earlier, if you have captions on, they can at least read the first sentence of what you're saying within the first second. There's lots of these little pieces of information you can give right away that'll capture the attention of the scroller.
There's also a couple of phrases I think that are pretty popular at the moment to start content. You'll find people speak pretty quickly in these videos too. That's not uncommon, and you feel like you need to rush, but you can kind of jump right in. People will do things like, these are the 5 things you need to know about XYZ. Or they might say, I tried XYZ and here's what I learned. Or they might say, this is the top tip I have about XYZ.
Or this tip changed my life. You got to know about it.
Those tiny hooks go a very, very long way. Watch time is a very important metric, a new metric that we might not be thinking about. It's, likes, comments, shares have been sort of our arsenal so far in social media, but watch time happens to be one of the highest metrics for sort of virality on these videos. So if the sort of users who are interacting with your content, the longer they watch your video, the better that is for you, because that indicates to the platforms that your video is worth watching, and it means that they will then serve it up to more folks. There's a lot of really interesting information out there about how the algorithm actually functions, but just know that watch time is important. So get to the point, get to your content, and don't waste any time, because the function of viewing this content is very quick scrolling. So even if you take the time to say, hi, we're Paige and Renee from The Hive.
Already done. Yeah.
More, and I know that's like not an uncommon thing for content, but like truly skip right to it. Can't emphasize it enough.
Yeah, really. Another piece of advice for when you're editing the video, is specifically on TikTok, you can be mindful of it on Reels as well. Is I call it the backwards L rule. So your video, when you're looking at it on your phone, you're putting text on here. Don't ever put any text or anything, stickers, anything down here, because there's going to be a logo icon, there's going to be a comment, a like button, and then stuff down here. And it's just going to get, it's the one thing, like if I see a video in the text, I can't see the whole text. I'm just going to keep scrolling. So that's just like a silly little one, but just don't put any text in that backwards L part of the screen. Another piece of advice, and this is kind of a big one, we talked about, you can repurpose videos. So if you make a video for TikTok, it doesn't have to just belong on TikTok. So make sure you're screen recording and saving TikToks like on your phone, so that you can then put them on Reels and there's no watermark. or, put them on LinkedIn, any other spaces that you exist. We actually have a video on our TikTok. We'll post the link in the comment description below. That will lead right to a video that shows you how to screen record, on the preview screen of TikTok. It's a little bit of a hack. So we already made that tutorial, and we'll link you to that to see how to do that if you don't already.
And I think it's important to note that too, because short form video, if you do take us up on the suggestion of natively creating that in a space like Instagram Reels or in TikTok itself, this is one of the first times that a social media channel has not been very easy to save a draft and share it, or even to forward a piece of content without it having the branding of the platform that you're on when you originally consume it. It's smart, obviously, because it drives people back to their platforms. If I take a TikTok and share it to my Twitter, it's going to have the TikTok watermark on it, right? So that said, we have to get a little smarter as social media managers as to how we can, knowing that our goal, right, is to always repurpose, we have to think about how to do that effectively. So that's why we wanted to take the time to talk about something like that might feel like really foreign to have to think about, like screen recording a draft. We don't certainly do that on like Instagram or Facebook, but it's important, and it's also a great indicator of sort of the change of our behaviors as social media managers or content creators in the new kind of format that social short video drives on social.
There also are some websites that are popular that you can like copy your TikTok video link, put it in the website, and then it'll let you download the video without the watermark for free. However, a downside to those are it lowers the quality of your video once you re-download it. And if you are doing an audio where you're lip syncing or trying to mouth to a sound, it will unsync your audio. So that's the perk of doing it the way that we do it with the hack. So definitely check out that TikTok.
And then lastly, we'll just say, if you don't know how to edit in TikTok or Instagram Reels and trying it really does not feel approachable for you, you can absolutely edit content in other platforms. If you are effective in Adobe Premiere, if you've used Veed before and you like to use that, if you're editing in Canva video and that's a place that you feel comfortable.
I forgot they have video.
Our number one rule of thumb here is just try, right? Like just get this content live. You will be shocked at how, I think you'll be shocked at how successful it can be. Do not let those things prohibit you. Create how you can create. Just get started, and it will come along. I mean, especially Rhea is really our video pro. I can say I've brushed up on my TikTok video editing skills.
Good. Give yourself credit.
I don't mess it up anymore, basically. So
you
will
learn.
You
were posting. Exactly. That's all it took.
So
to your point, one more thing. And if that's still not in your wheelhouse of like editing yourself, you can always outsource. So there's always some creatives out there who, you just sit there and film a couple of videos of yourself, send them the raw video, let them know your vision, and they can probably edit it and screen record it for you and send it right back. So just know that's always an option.
So that was like a 5-minute crash course on editing for short form video. Certainly that's something we can dive into more in another session, but if you have questions, let us know. Moving into the last element here before we take some questions, obviously we mentioned we do this kind of work for clients every day. So we wanted to talk about what we found as sort of like the secret sauce for making social short videos work hard for growth and for searchability and sort of growing a really powerful and engaged audience for our actual clients. The number one piece of advice that we can recommend here, and we can share some examples, is especially if you're a brand, an organization, or you manage the pages on behalf of a company, like a larger company, we have found hand over fist, single point of view, or sort of a host or a mascot or a personality running the account, not just running the account, but sort of being the account, is far more successful than trying to simply create content under the name, the sort of brand name, without having like a person or a personality attached to it. So we can give some examples to make this clear.
Yeah. So for example, do you want me to give an example now? We have a client, Assisted Living Made Simple. You can look them up on TikTok. Well, actually, that's not their handle on TikTok. It used to be. So their Instagram is Assisted Living Made Simple. So
that's the name of the company.
Everything. So when we created the TikTok initially, we were like, great, let's keep the handle the same, because that's typically what you do when you have a new channel. So we did that, and we put the logo, which is like a little animated sunset, as the profile picture on TikTok. And for how many months did we have that live? 3 months. No traction. I mean, we got some views, some likes, but like no comments. It wasn't nearly going anywhere like the one client we have that like uses her face and her person as her brand. So then we were like, okay, well, Rose, who runs assisted living, she is usually the person in the video. So what if we rebranded the account and made it about Rose, the assisted living advocate, instead of the company Assisted Living Made Simple? So we changed the profile picture to her picture. We changed the username to Rose Assisted Living Guide, and changed the bio to be to say, I'm Rose, your senior care advocate and assisted living guide. So initially you think this is her account, but if you click on the Instagram link, then it's going to go to the company website.
And she's obviously promoting the company services. So
Right.
She's not only promoting herself.
And she's talking about things related in the industry. And once we did that and started posting some more content, we grew her account to 6,636 followers within like 2 months, I think, of doing that.
Which is basically like 600 times more successful than it was in our initial. And to be clear, our content strategy did not change.
Didn't change.
We were following all the tips we gave you, right? She's answering questions. She has a niche that she's specific about. She does a series where she tours assisted living facilities. We were leveraging all the tools we just told you work. But until we leveraged the single point of view, the sort of personality host of the account, we didn't see the kind of sort of exponential growth that we had once we did make that change. You can also see this, right? Like outside of our examples, the Washington Post, right? Like what business does the Washington Post have having a TikTok channel? You would think, like who is the Washington Post, right? They answered that question really successfully by appointing at first one person who was hosting the account, and now it's sort of a roster of personalities, of faces that make the content every day on the Washington Post TikTok. If you've not seen it, great example to check out. Duolingo, we mentioned quite literally the mascot. It is it's a mascot. It's the bird, and just absolutely phenomenal success. So we have now tested this theory with our own clients. We see it to be absolutely true. I just saw an article drop yesterday about how mascots are the future of TikTok. So know this, if you're working on a brand account or an organizational account where there isn't maybe a clear person.
Another one is Scrub Daddy.
Oh yeah, they're another
really
one.
The literal sponge
the
is their mascot.
This approach is sort of different than we might take, especially if you're looking at a little bit more of a buttoned up presence on social media for your brand. You don't have to get kooky if that's not your brand ethos or your brand voice, but having an individual person who's sort of a regular face that can be seen on the space is going to, absolutely, we promise you, we'll perform better. That's a huge element of sort of what we found is really successful. Another thing what we'd say is from our perspective as the social managers, especially in an agency role, we are not with our clients every day. We go to shoot with them sometimes, but we're not there every single day. So what's been successful for us has been, number one, batch filming. So we film a lot of content in 1 or 2 days. And the way that we do that is by having a plan. We plan the content that we want to create and capture. And we make sure we do that when we are with them for a limited amount of time. But also we make it a point to bring an element of accessibility to creating content to our actual clients. This way that when they are, doing their daily business tasks, they can have the sort of toolkit or tool belt. They're armed with these tools to know, hey, if you had a really great interaction with a client or someone that a customer that you serve, and you thought to yourself, oh, that was really great and really captures what we do. We have taught them, right? Like turn on your camera, make sure the lighting's decent, and record it. And we try to keep the bar really on the ground with that, right? Like we're not telling them to shoot something perfect. They send it to us. We take care of the editing and sharing. If they send it to us and, for example, the audio is great, but the video quality is horrible, that's where we step in as the strategist to say we can still use this content, right? We'll drop video over it or photos, or we'll go the route of text on screen versus a person. But enabling our clients to become content generators in the easiest way, right? We're not asking them to do our jobs. We're just asking them to content capture when we're not there to do it. That has been really successful for us because then in between the batched content that we're able to shoot, we have stuff to share, and they really feel bought into the process as well, which makes them, feel really empowered as they see, questions come in and they're getting interaction. So if you have a team or a client or a boss who you're thinking you might need to leverage for these short form videos, consider, showing them along the way the sort of very easy ways that they can pull out their phone and shoot a quick video, or grab some camera footage for you to use later. That goes a really long way.
And then the last, well, she kind of touched to it, but batch filming is like really a key element to how we show our clients how to like do it themselves, because we'll spend sometimes 4 to 8 hours with them one day, and we'll get a quarter of like 3 months worth of content that we can then use. But as we're not just filming it and then leaving, but we're filming and showing them what we're doing. And sometimes we've had clients be like, wait, what's that ring light? I want to get one of those for my office. And we're like, yes, you got it. So it's really exciting to see your clients feel empowered. And we're not trying to gatekeep ourselves. Like, yes, we're the experts and we're the strategists, but like, we want to show you how to do it too. It makes our job easier, and it empowers them their content only gets better the more that they play with making it. So you just got to empower them a little bit.
Well, that was just a solid 40 minutes of discussion.
Yeah.
If you can't tell, we could talk about this all day. And obviously, this is just the tip of a massive, massive iceberg. We really just wanted to provide like a down and dirty for you all, since this is sort of the state of the industry as we see it now. But if anyone has questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, especially if there's like resources we can share with you, or specific kind of problem solving we can help you work through in terms of bringing this to life for yourself.
Or if we inspired you, like anything we said, did you have any questions, or did you want to know more about something? Is there anything like future sessions you want us to hold? I'm also curious. We have one.
Oh my God. Hey, y'all.
Okay.
Can you talk about how to filter content to research your specific niche? And can you talk about how you plan out? Yes. Okay. Starting with the batch content, we can go backwards. When we batch content, oh my God, Camille has a question too.
Go ahead and just ask it, Camille, because we'll address them all. So if you want to just put it in the...
When we batch content, it helps us to have in place sort of our content buckets that we mentioned, right? So for example, with our interior design client, we sit down and batch content in a few ways, right? We sit and we'll start by number one. We always start with, what are the burning questions we can answer? Now that she's established, we get questions on her channels all the time.
In her comments, in the actual Q&A
People will
section.
message her. So we'll start there, and we filter down to the top comments that seem like they could be most useful to sort of the larger audience, right? So sometimes we get comments that are like, my room has this dimension window. What do I do? They share this pattern. Great, we can share that. So we start by making lists that she can answer. So that's one sort of category of content that we begin with. Then we'll move on to things like series. So we know for her, for example, she's an interior designer, does a lot of talking about wallpapers.
Wallpaper Wednesday.
So we developed Wallpaper Wednesday. So every Wednesday she's doing a feature on a particular wallpaper. Sometimes it's like a history of the wallpaper, which is really interesting. Sometimes it'll be like, I saw a wallpaper in a TV show and I spotted it, and here's what it is, if you're curious. Her Succession series for that was really successful. So we really go by the buckets, right? And then we list out kind of the bottom line of that TikTok or that piece of content. When we go to then batch shoot, we shoot in those batches. That way it becomes pretty kind of turnkey, right? Like once we do the first question, it's pretty easy. One tip we do have for batch content shooting, have your client or the person you're filming have a few changes of clothes, so that doesn't look like it was all filmed on the same day.
It will become obvious if you're doing the same content for 3 months and she hasn't changed.
Even if it's just like a swap, like throw a blazer on, take a blazer off. Also, switching up your location, even if that's just like a different, corner of the room. Yeah, that really helps. Researching, hashtag searching on TikTok, I think is really powerful. I would also say more than ever, the platforms are really smart. You can search like by phrases. They're being powered by like search engines. Yeah. So that's one way. And I would also say like researching outside of the platforms can help too, like tools like Answer the Public, things like that.
Another thing is like spending time on the actual client's TikTok. So like scrolling on the client's For You page. I will sometimes like try to go on 15 minutes a week and train the client's For You page. So that literally means me scrolling through. And if there's a piece of content that has nothing to do with my client's niche, I'll go into more and hit not interested in this content. So I try to only have videos being served that are in that niche. And then just watching their For You page gives me ideas when I'm researching and batching.
So use your feed to curate what you're looking at.
Yeah, like what are other people doing?
Yeah. A question of like, do we think YouTube channels are helpful, or is short form video taking over the YouTube space? Personal answer to that one, I think no. I think short form is what it is, right? Like it's a minute to at max 3. Yeah. It can be a great place to sort of test and understand what types of, what space can you own, right? As your brand or as a client. And then YouTube is not going anywhere, right? Like they're very interesting if you're curious to learn about it. Hank Green recently did a sort of video about how YouTube still pays more per creator than TikTok does. So if a creator's trying to, or a brand is trying to like earn via these channels, YouTube still, tops out there. But I think YouTube is the extension of the short form, right?
Yeah.
So you learn what's successful in the short form, which is easy to produce, quick. You can test, you can try things. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Take your learnings from that then and translate them to a YouTube channel, right? Yeah. Like if people are really latched onto a certain topic or they're learning a lot from something, then take the time to shoot something a little more polished, professional, long form for YouTube, or use YouTube for like going live and things like that. Yeah. Totally, there's a space for both.
And to that point, so like if your business is more centered around video and you have long videos to serve, use TikTok as the first level, pull people in there with quick clips, and then have it linked to your Instagram, which then they can find your YouTube. And so it's all like layers. And also, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, in a successful sort of full scope content strategy, every channel serves its purpose. And I think that's exactly what you just described.
So for example, this video is going to be about an hour long, and we just talked about 4 different points from our outline. So we can turn this into like 4 different mini clips. And then from that, 3, mini clips for TikTok. So it's all relative. And if that's part of your business model, the long form video, YouTube is a beautiful landing space to go outside of TikTok.
Camille's question: when trying to convince your client, board members, boss that video content is so important and not a waste of work time, what ways do you recommend convincing them that it's valuable time and money investment?
We've talked before about creating like a document that's kind of like a template, an email template.
So your boss doesn't believe you.
Yeah, for you to literally like send to them and be like, these professionals created this, and this is just like why we should be doing this. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel of convincing them. So maybe that's something we should put out, because it sounds like there's a need for that. But that's totally understandable. We have clients that don't even like believe us sometimes that video is the way to go.
I think one thing that has helped us a little bit has been coming back to the basics, right? Like a bit from a business perspective, they want to know, who are we talking to and is it helping our bottom line, right? So I remember when we were trying to convince our interior design client to look into the TikTok space, which she now loves, which we're glad about. We pulled data actually that we were able to find in reports, like industry reports, and also directly from platforms. There's TikTok, for example, has great resources that show kind of who's on their platform and what their like buying behavior looks like and things like that. And remember, one of the stats that really helped us move the needle for her was that one of the highest growing segments on TikTok when we were talking to her was individuals in household income of $140,000 or more. And that was really important for her because she's a high-end sort of interior designer. So when we showed her like the misconception is not true that it's children on this space, that your actual audience members are here, that helped us to grease the wheels, because we were able to say, like, we're not just saying that you should jump on this because it's a trend. We're saying that the folks you are trying to reach are no longer in the spaces that you thought they were, Facebook or wherever, or maybe they are, but they're more prominently, they're more prominently growing in these areas. Another thing that we that I think helps in this way is to sort of showcase that like the investment goes further, right? Like to invest in video content that can be sliced and diced and repurposed, it's sometimes helpful to show that like that's going to go, let's say you hire a videographer and it's $1,500. You can then own that content. Number one, it's important, like ownership is still there. Number two, that's going to serve you as an organization and make your job in your marketing role easier and make a bigger impact than you spending 4 hours to arrange the ad layout that's going to go in the print magazine. There's nothing wrong with that, but to sort of show them that like, video could be the kind of thing where it's a one-time investment in time and money, and then ends up having a really long tail in terms of, repurposability, reach, being able to utilize. The other thing I would say is, and this is rogue, like just test it. You know what I mean? Especially if you're lucky enough to already have like an Instagram, right? Like just start turning things into reels too. It's obviously going to be a little ad hoc. And if you can show like, hey, look, compared to what we're doing in our traditional strategy with, static image or whatever it might be, if you just straight up compare them to when we share short form video in the format of a reel, for example, and the reach goes further, if they still aren't getting it and they're looking at the numbers and they're still not getting it, then, I think that's another conversation, but like having numbers, stats, things like that to share has been helpful for us. And it's a risk too. It's scary to be like, we want to do this and you don't maybe believe us. I know that feeling, but
a lot of times, to Paige's point, when you find resistance from upper management, it's lack of education on their end. It's them thinking, oh, my teenager has this and they're just doing dumb lip syncing videos all day. And that's not what my business is. So, just show them. And to that point as well, I think it's not going to be in too much longer that you need to convince your bosses. Like, just like at one point being on Instagram as a business was like, what? But now it's a landing page. It's like having a website. You have to have one, arguably. They're just my opinions again. But where does I go with that?
You won't have to.
Like you won't have to. Like Duolingo, Washington Post. Those companies are kind of doing the work for you. It's not going to for every niche has a good example of why you should be on the app.
That's another great thing to do is you don't have to make the argument for yourself. If a competitor, especially like if you can find a competitor that's doing it right or doing it not right, it can be like, they're trying, but they're not doing it well. And here's how we can do it more successfully. And here's how I think that it will impact our bottom line. That's been really successful for us. That is like, that's like a huge conversation I think we could have in a separate section is how do you get buy-in on.
Because look at the growth so far, right? Like I think even early 2020, it was still kind of like for fun, leisure. And it wasn't until the past year that we really saw it becoming a serious thing for more than just leisure and entertainment.
And now, the tools are developing too, especially on spaces like TikTok, like to be able to shop directly within the app, to, catching up to all those things. So that's a really great question.
We were just talking about that earlier.
I saw it on TikTok or TikTok made me buy it. Like that's that in itself. There's actually a great article around the data TikTok made me buy it that shows the actual impact of a channel like that.
Michaela says, what are some sources you recommend for industry updates, research, and data? One of my favorite ones is honestly Later. Later.com. Later Media is their Instagram, but they host great content that is quick industry updates.
HubSpot, Hootsuite, and Sprout Social and Buffer actually all issue among them some really great like white papers and reports every year. Especially Later does the same, especially around like trends or sort of predictions for the industry. Those are really, really helpful. Following the platforms themselves, TikTok has a huge element of education to the information you can access, especially for small businesses. So leveraging the platforms themselves, going directly to them.
There's a really good monthly session I heard called The State of the Socials that's going to start giving monthly updates. I heard about that. That's a really top of my list. Really you should probably keep that one.
And then other sort of experts in the space. We love Latasha James, Freelance Friday podcast.
She's so good.
She talks about a lot of things, but she comes from the social media space, so her insight in that industry is really,
especially like really freelancing and like trying to do that thing. She's good at that information too.
But data, I would say the scheduling tools issue some really great reports, and they do them on like quarterly and annual basis, so you can compare them. I think it's called, it's going to escape me. It starts with a B. But they do a benchmarking report. Rival IQ. It's not a B. Rival IQ. They do a benchmarking report for what like the average engagement rate is or should be for each industry, which I find is super helpful to be able to say to a client, like, I know you think your 4% engagement on LinkedIn is low or whatever, but industry average is 1.3 or whatever. So to put them in context to the rest of their industry I love that tool. So Rival IQ, they do that every year.
Yeah. But I'm sure there's more, and I think of them. We'll put them down in the description for you to click on later. Yeah. Any other questions? This is so great.
Thanks for hanging with us for a whole hour.
This was fun. We just have wanted to do this for about a year now. I think we've had the idea. Well, not this idea specifically, but we're finally getting into the education space, and it's obviously something we love and love to talk about. So is there anything that you guys would be interested in seeing for our next session? Any specific topics around anything to do with social media marketing, content creation? Just pop it in the comments, and we're definitely gonna be looking for your feedback to know what direction to take with these. So thanks everybody.
You all.
We'll see you next time.